Welcome to the FAFSA Ready, Set, Go Live, where we help you unlock financial aid to support your college dreams. My name is Katisha Tony, and I am the president and CEO of Coats Inc. Last week, we discussed the importance of completing the FAFSA and understanding the different components of financial aid, such as scholarships, loans, grants, and work study. This week, we will talk about the items you'll need to complete your FAFSA. We will also speak with an expert this week, Mr. Antoine Hawkins, the IUN Group Scholars Coordinator and Student Support Specialist at Indiana University Northwest. He'll be sharing informational gems about the 21st Century Scholars Program, the IUN Group Scholarship, and a wealth of other great information to support students. But first, let's get you prepared to complete the FAFSA. So when you're preparing to complete the FAFSA, there are some required information that you need to have available in order to complete the FAFSA quickly, easily, and free of errors. So there is a list of required documents that you need to gather. For one, you'll need your Social Security number, your parent's Social Security number, if you're a dependent, your federal income tax returns, W-2s, the other records of money earned or received. InvestEd, which is a free resource with the state, also has a really great checklist tool that you can utilize that'll keep you on track for the things you need to complete your FAFSA. So I'm going to show you really quickly a little bit of what that looks like. When you go to that website, it's going to give you a little bit of information. The InvestEd website is going to give you a couple of checklist items. So for one, again, on the left-hand side of that document is going to give you a little bit of details around the tax returns for W-2s, the current bank statements, some investment records, a value of your real estate or rental property items, as well as some child support payments or received, and any value of business or family information. So again, going to that InvestEd website is going to give you a little bit of details of what you'll need in order to track what you need to complete your FAFSA. Again, they have a really cool checklist that we'll go over with you all in a second. The other thing is when you collected all of the required information that you need in order to create your FSA ID, we need to go through that process as well. So for one, to create an FSA ID, you're going to need to visit the studentaid.gov website. So the FSA ID will be your electronic signature for the FAFSA. You're going to need one for you and also one for your parents. So making sure that you go in and create that. Again, you're going to need that for you and also for the parent, specifically if you are a dependent, because it's going to be required. You have to create the FSA ID before you can actually complete the FAFSA, and it'll take up to 3 days for the ID to be verified and processed. So you want to make sure you do this early and before you attend any FAFSA completion events. Because again, when you attend those FAFSA completion events, you want to make sure you have your FSA ID created so that you can actually get everything done in kind of one stop. And I'll walk you a little bit through what that FSA ID creation form will look like. So it's here on the screen. You'll see here where it says student. When you're going through creating that FSA ID, you're going to need your username. You're going to need a password that's created. You're also going to need a personal email address. And when we say personal email address, please make sure it's one that you have access to. Make sure that it is one that you are going to be able to get back into as well. Because once you create that FSA ID and it's linked to that email, it's going to be really difficult for you to get back into it or try to change it. So make sure you have that. They're also going to give you challenge questions that you're going to need to have. We're going to have to answer some challenge questions, and then you'll be able to answer those as well. And then I want you to also think about where it says contributor. So your contributor is also your parent or your guardian. So they are going to, again, need to do that FSA ID as well. So making sure you have a username and password, and also they need to have an up-to-date email address that they have access to as well, because we want to make sure that not only are you able to sign that FSA ID and that FAFSA, but your parent is going to have to sign that FAFSA as well. So making sure you take this item, making sure you put all your information here. And one rule of thumb that I always tell families is once you complete it and create that FSA ID, take a picture of it. So take a picture of that one pager so it's stored in your phone. You can also have your parent also take that form and store it as well. But again, this is a really great one pager. I also want to highlight the date here at the top. So it says April 15th. That's the FAFSA priority deadline for the state of Indiana. We've talked about this multiple times throughout this series, is that April 15th is a big deadline for the state of Indiana. And also, if anyone's watching that's not in Indiana, you can go to studentaid.gov and also find out what your state deadline is. But making sure when you complete the FAFSA, you do it by that priority deadline. And another thing to note, if you're having some issues and you need one-on-one support, we are always going to be here to provide that support for you through some online aspects, but also InvestEd also provides FAFSA help as well. So there's a number on there. So if there are hours that we're not available that you need to still be able to get that access, I want to make sure that you're able to still get any additional information as well and be able to have another resource in order to complete your FAFSA as well. One other thing to think about as you are getting ready to fill out the FAFSA is understanding your dependency status. So making sure you determine whether you are a dependent or an independent student. This affects the information you need to provide when completing the FAFSA. You want to make sure you get this right the first time. So there's no errors in your FAFSA. You don't want to be flagged for verification. Again, verification takes a long time. You do not want to be flagged for that. So making sure that you are selecting if you are dependent or independent. So taking a look at that dependency website is great as well, because it'll give you a way to kind of go in and understand which way you qualify, whether you're dependent or independent. If you scroll through and scroll down to the website, it gives you a list of yes or no questions. And as you answer those and you scroll down, it'll give you an idea of if you are falling into the independent student or dependent student. So again, making sure you have that information before you get ready to complete the FAFSA. Again, we are sharing this information about how to make sure you are prepared for FAFSA when it opens in December. And I want to say, yes, I said December, because just this past week, it was noted that FAFSA will again be delayed from the normal October timeline, and they are looking at an early December opening. What I would suggest is that you continue to follow up with your school counselor or your university representatives about any updates on this information. So again, staying up to date on when the FAFSA is going to become live, but most importantly, having all your documents prepared and your FSA ID done is going to put you ahead of the game as you're getting ready to complete the FAFSA. Again, as we're going through this live, feel free to ask any questions about the FAFSA. Anything that you have, we'll be able to make sure we can answer that and get you to the right resources. If for some reason I can't answer the question, I will make sure that I find the right resource to give it to you. And so now at this time, we're just going to jump into our conversation with our expert. So today, as I said, we would like to spend a little bit of time with our expert, Mr. Antoine Hawkins, again from IUN Group Scholars Coordinator and the Student Support Specialist at Indiana University Northwest, who has a lot of knowledge about the 21st Century Scholars Program and the IUN Groups programs and a bunch of other great information. So thanks for joining us, Antoine. And before you get started, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been working in admissions and the student supports realm?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm always willing to help out any way I can, especially when it comes to our young people in education and the importance of it. My name is Antoine Hawkins. I work here at Indiana University Northwest, right here in Gary, Indiana. I've been working for the university a little over 6 years now. I've been in admissions for the majority of that time, helping students with their applications, going out to the schools and to the community and educating them on the importance of education and how to go about enrolling in the university. I was given the opportunity to help create a group scholars program here at the Northwest campus. This was back in 2022, April of 2022, where we patterned our program after the Bloomington program, but we made it make sense for our population of students. So I was doing that role in addition to an admissions counselor. And then recently, at the beginning of this year, I was given this new role as over the 21st Century Scholar program here at the Northwest campus. So I work with students who are 21st Century Scholars, helping them obtain their award and keep their award while they're here as a student at IU Northwest.
Perfect. And thank you for that. I got to ask you a quick question before you get into everything. Is
Yes.
were you in the groups program before? Is that what made you want to model that at IUN? Because I know originally it was at IU Bloomington. So just kind of wanted to kind of ask that question. Probably asking you some questions before we dig into it, but I
No,
was
no,
interested.
no. That's fine. No, I actually was not aware of the program at
Mhm.
all. I actually went to school in Illinois. So we didn't have a group scholars program at all. So the first time I was introduced to the program was when it was brought to me to start it. However, one of the reasons why I decided to do it was because I can see myself in a lot of those students.
Mhm.
They're first generation underrepresented students. That was me. So I felt the need to actually invest into this program. So that was one of the reasons I decided to jump on board and help start this program here on campus.
Okay, nice. So can you tell us more about just what type of opportunities and programs you provide?
Yeah, so starting with the Group Scholars Program, it's a program for first generation college students. This is an amazing opportunity for students to come to campus. They actually come 6 weeks before school starts their freshman year. So during those 6 weeks, they take courses, so they're getting a jump start on their academic track. We also introduce them to different guest speakers. So we have personal development opportunities. We take trips with them, and we create a sense of community for the students. We know the best way for students to be successful is to give them a sense of community. They have a sense of belonging. So instead of being a student the first day of school and you're looking around this big campus and there's 3,500 some students and you don't know anyone, at
Mhm.
least with this program, you are introduced to at least a group of students who you're familiar with. You know where your classes are on campus. You know how to navigate. You know where the resources are. And then we also help students financially by providing them scholarships, as well as a lot of other things. They get laptop computers, and other things that we give them as well. So it's a big help for students to get a jump start. Our three pillars are: we provide academic support, financial support, and then social emotional support to all students.
Okay. So they don't have to be in like the groups or 21st century scholars to get that, because I know like I'm looking at your titles and it's like the groups program, it's also student supports, and just wondering um how that how that supports students who are just IUN students, so to speak.
Right. So that I just mentioned, that was particularly to students who are in the Group Scholars Program, but there's a lot of overlap. So we have students who are 21st century scholars who are also group scholars. We also have students who are part of Student Support Services, which is our TRIO program here on campus. We have other services and other programs as well on campus for students. So there's a lot of support for students here on campus, and there's a lot of overlap. So some students, they may qualify to be a group scholar, but they're not 21st century or vice versa. But there is a lot of overlap. So there's a lot of resources here on campus for students. So I don't want parents to think that if my child is not 21st century scholar or a group scholar, that
Mhm.
they're not going to receive services. All students receive free tutoring regardless to what their major is or anything. We have a writing center that's open to students. And then numerous other opportunities that's available to students: free counseling services, free financial literacy services. So there's a lot of resources and things else here on campus that's open to all students regardless.
Okay, perfect. So how long does the 21st century scholarship last in terms of credit hours for students who are going to IUN?
Great question. So we get this question a lot because they want to know, well, how many credits can I take? How many is it going to cover? The beautiful thing about the 21st Century Scholars Program is the way it's designed is designed to help students financially to obtain their bachelor's degree. So as long as you're a degree seeking student, you must be full time in order to receive it, which is 12 credits or more per semester. And the award is given to a student as long as they're in good academic standings for 4 years. So there isn't a credit cap on it. It's a time period. So as long as you're full time and you're degree seeking, you should receive it all 4 years as long as you're in good academic standing.
I had a question. So, if I take a year off from high school, can I still receive a 21st century scholarship?
Yes. So for students who graduate, in order for you, let me backtrack just a little bit. In order for you to receive the scholarship, you must graduate high school with a core 40 high school diploma. Once you receive that and you receive the award because you took all the other steps, you successfully completed the steps on your scholar track, such as visiting a college. Um, they have things on there like going to a college fair, things of that nature, things that you would do anyway as a college, as a student seeking to go to college. These are requirements that you have to fulfill along with the pledge. Now, once you receive your award, you don't have to claim it that year that you graduate. You actually have 1 year. So you can take a gap year off fresh out of high school and
Mm.
then claim it the following year. However, you must claim it the fall of that following year or you can lose the scholarship. So you don't have to claim it right after. You do have 1 year that you can take a gap year off and then you can go and you can claim that scholarship.
I have a question. Say a student goes they first year and they decide to take a year off. Can they come back and are they still eligible for the 21st century scholarship when they come back?
Now that one's a little different. So if you go and then you stop, you would actually have to petition to receive it again. The idea is to get students to graduate within 4 years. So if you take that gap year off, but then you're consistent for the 4 years, that's fine. However, if you start and then stop and want to come back, then that's when it's up to the state to determine whether or not what was the reason for you stopping. Now, if there are some reasons because we know life happens where you may have some medical issues or what have you that cause you to stop. But that is totally up to the state of Indiana. You will petition to have it reinstated, and it's up to them whether or not they will grant it for you to receive it again.
Thank you.
Hmm. That's good to know. What are some things that many students are not aware about the participation requirements for the 21st Century Scholars
That's a
Program?
good question. So I will go from the college level. So a lot of times students have the misconception that I received it, I have it, I'm good. I'm just going to go to college now and they're going to pay for it. The biggest thing that you have to understand is, like I said before, you have to be a full-time student. Well, full-time is 12 credit hours. As long as you're 12 credit hours per semester, that's considered full-time by the federal level and most universities. As long as you're 12 credit hours, you're considered full-time. However, the state of Indiana, in order for you to continue to receive your 21st century scholarship, you must successfully complete 30 credit hours per academic year. Okay.
Mm.
So most universities, if you go on a semester similar to like IU, the academic year is consisting of fall and spring semester, which means instead of doing 12 credits each semester, we encourage students to do 15 credits each semester because what ends up happening is if you're taking 12 in the fall, 12 in the spring, that means you have to take 6 in the summer in order to get 30 credit hours in to keep your scholarship. So
Mm.
if you're only taking 12 and this is your first year in college, first semester, I don't know how many of you remember your first semester in college, but sometimes students have a little hard time adjusting and they're not as successful as they want to be. So if you're only taking 12 and let's say you don't successfully complete one of those classes, now you're even further behind trying to catch up to get to those 30 credits for the academic year. So we always suggest to students is we want you to register for 15 for the fall. We want you to register for 15 in the spring. And then in the hopes that something doesn't happen, we know you're excellent students, but just in case, now there isn't a rush to where you have to take classes in the summer. Summer is now an option. And the beautiful thing about their scholarship is if you do take classes in the summer, that's considered the same academic year, and they will pay for the summer classes as well as long as you're degree seeking. Now, you can't just randomly take a basket weaving course over the summer, or you want to take a swimming class over the summer. It has to be within your degree plan that's going to get you an actual degree. Now, if that basket weaving course falls as an elective that qualifies, then so be it. But as long as you're a degree seeking student and you successfully complete 30 credits, it will renew each year.
I want to ask something really quick to tie into that. So, what if a student is applying, well, wants to take, kind of get ahead of the game and take say I took 15 in the fall, took 15 in the spring, and then in the summer I want to take a class. How will that fall into it? But would that just be more moving into the next year, or how would that work out?
So ideally, they don't want you to take the summer classes, but they will pay up to it. That would be determined up to your academic advisor on your campus. So I'm going to refer to IU Northwest because that's where I'm at.
Okay.
So here at IU Northwest, we have what we call banded tuition. And what the banded tuition is, regardless to whether you're taking 12 to 18 credits, you pay the same tuition per semester. They band the tuition together. So with us, it doesn't matter. Let's say instead of taking 12, you're taking 18 and 18, which I do not suggest that. Do not take 18 credits a semester, especially your first year. But if you do, hypothetically, the cost is still the same. So when it comes to 21st century scholars, they're still going to cover it all the same. It's up to your school whether or not they'll cover it for the summer as well. So the state doesn't look at it and say, okay, well, you're taking these 6 classes for this. It's basically up to the school and how they report what credits you're taking. And then when they generate your bill, the state is just going to pay the bill. So the state is going to pay 100% of your tuition and fees as long as you attend a public college or university in the state of Indiana that's accredited. Okay. Um, and what I mean by fees is it has to be a fees that's assessed to all students. So some students, let's say you're a medical student, you have some additional fees because you're a medical student. It won't cover those additional fees because those aren't fees that's assessed by all students. So they mean fees for all students would be like if you have an activities fee that all students get charged, say a $30 activities fee, or if there's um, I don't know, a grounds fee or whatever the fee is. If it's a standard fee that all students have to pay, they will cover that fee as well. So in the case of students who, let's say you want to go to Bloomington, Bloomington has housing and you want to stay in housing. The 21st Century Scholarship is going to cover your tuition and your fees, but it won't cover your housing. It won't cover your meal plan. It won't cover your parking. Those fees, you have to figure out another way to get those fees covered. The 21st Century Scholars Scholarship will not cover those fees. But here's a good point. To qualify for 21st Century Scholars, students have to fit within an income range. So it's usually for low to limited income students, which means if your student receives free or reduced lunch, you should automatically be enrolled in it in their 7th or 8th grade year to receive the 21st Century Scholarship. Good rule of thumb that if your student is receiving free or reduced lunch, you also qualify for the max Pell, which is government funding, which I'm sure you all spoke about Pell as well. So let's say you do go to Bloomington, your tuition is going to be paid from 21st Century Scholars. Most likely you're going to also receive Pell. That Pell can now come in and cover those fees that 21st Century Scholars won't cover. So you still have an opportunity to go to school practically for free or for very little money.
And as far as the 21st Century Scholarship and other scholarships, is the 21st Century Scholarship applied first before any other scholarships, or how does that work?
It is applied first. So that's the beautiful thing about the scholarship. So in that situation, like I said, that same student who receives Pell, if they attend IU Northwest, they have their bill. The 21st Century Scholarship is going to be applied to their bill first, which should cover all their tuition and their fees. Then if they received any federal grants, that money will be applied. Then if they receive any scholarships, those scholarships will then be applied as well. So in most cases, students who are 21st century scholars, they end up with a nice refund check every semester.
Does 21st Century Scholars cancel out any other scholarships or grants?
Yes and no. So they do cross out Frank O'Bannon because that is also a state funded grant that's given from the state of Indiana. Other than that, there's very few other grants and scholarships that students receive that it will cancel out. For the most part, it does not. So it's applied first before anything else is applied, and then everything else will run after it. The beautiful thing about other scholarships, especially if you receive scholarships from like outsourced, like community scholarships, things of that nature, those usually go directly to the student. However, if they're applied to the student's bill, if they have 21st Century Scholars that's going to pay for their tuition and their fees, then that money would then be returned right to the student in the form of a refund.
Hmm. Okay. I want to go back to something you said. You talked about max pail amount. Can
Mhm.
you just share again? It's always good to hear that part again. Can you share again about what the max pail amount and what that means?
Yeah, so right now, students who qualify for the max, the way the Pell Grant works is based off of the information, whoever claims you as a dependent, based off of their income, the federal government determines how much of this Pell amount that you receive. I'm not sure what the breakdown is, but they determine that. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the amount went up to almost $7,900
Mm,
per academic year. So if you receive that max amount of $7,900, that amount is going to go directly to your university bill. Okay.
mm.
If you have 21st Century Scholarship, if you're a 21st Century Scholar, that money is going to be applied to your bill first, and then that Pell is going to kick in. That $7,900 is going to kick in and go towards whatever is left over if there is a balance to take care of that balance. And
And
then
that is not like Franco Bannon, right? That's a different thing.
that's totally different. Yeah,
Okay.
that's totally different. So students who qualify for 21st Century Scholars, usually they're Franco Bannon. They wouldn't get both. They would get the 21st Century Scholars because it covers the full amount regardless. It's not a dollar amount. The Franco Bannon is a dollar amount.
Mm, okay.
So it works similar to the Pell where it's a dollar amount.
I have had lots of parents reach out to me recently about Pell Grants, and that's why I kind of wanted to ask that question again because I think it's also income based, right? So isn't it based off your income on how much Pell Grant you can actually receive?
Correct. So it's based off of whoever claims the student as a dependent is based off of their income,
Mm,
off the FAFSA. That's how it's based, and it's federal, so it doesn't interfere with 21st Century is at all because 21st Century is state. So federal, that Pell amount, that's the amount that the students are going to get, regardless to what school they go to in anywhere in the country. So if they go in Illinois, they go to school in New York, they go to California, they go to a public school or a private school, that Pell amount is going to remain the same. So if they qualify, say for $5,000, they're going to get $5,000 whether they go to IU, Purdue, UCLA, Howard University, wherever they go, they're going to get that same $5,000 because that's federal.
okay. All
Can
right.
I go back to one question that I had about the group scholarship program? So I know growing up, everyone knew about like 21st Century Scholars, but since groups is kind of newer to IUN, how do students learn about the groups program before, I guess, applying to the university?
So we're reaching out to the community members, letting them know that way. It's on our website. We have a counselor breakfast with all the regional high school counselors in the area where we let them know, hey, share this information with your students. If you know students who are interested in the program, refer them to the program. So it's a grassroots, slowly but surely, getting the word out that we have it. Bloomington has definitely helped out to say, hey, there's also a program at Northwest. If you're interested in staying locally within the region, they have a program as well. So we're slowly getting the word out there. But yes, we do have a group scholars program at IU Northwest. So if you are interested, the application's opened August 1st. So you can apply now for any student who is looking to possibly come to IU Northwest this upcoming academic year next fall. Applications open now.
Okay.
I have a question. How many students are y'all taking for the IU groups?
For the groups program, we're capping it at 25.
25. Okay.
25.
And how competitive is it? Like, is it where you're getting a super large amount and you have to select those like top 25, or
Gotcha.
do you have to be recommended? Because I know that for the IU groups program, you have to be recommended. So wondering what that process is like. Is it just apply, or do you need that recommendation? Like
They
how
need a
you?
recommendation. So to qualify for the program, students have to, number one, apply to IU Northwest.
Mm,
Then they can apply to the Group Scholars Program. There's an essay they must complete. There's a GPA requirement of a minimum 2.3 GPA, successfully complete a Core 40 high school diploma, and then they have to be recommended by a recommender. So the list of recommenders, if you are a recommender for Bloomington, you can recommend for IU Northwest as well. And then if you go to our website, you can see the list of recommenders that's on there. Once students apply, their application will be looked over, their essay will be looked over, and then they'll get notification on whether or not they're accepted. As far as being competitive, so we just had our last cohort. They just actually finished up. With that group, I had about 79 applications.
Okay.
About 79 applications, which is really good.
Mhm.
The unfortunate part of that is I had maybe 35 of them not complete applications.
Mm.
So the essay piece kind of scares students for some reason, but it's not as strenuous, I don't think. It's a minimum 300-word essay on an obstacle that you've overcome. But for whatever reason, we don't get students willing to write that essay, which then disqualifies their application because it's not considered complete, which is unfortunate. So yes, it's 25 spots, but I don't think we'll have a hard time filling those 25 spots.
Okay. That's good to note about, how many people are applying and what the shortfalls are. So I think for those who are watching, making sure they get their essays in, and also obviously asking for support with those essays if it's needed, reaching out to, as I always talk about, reaching out to your counseling office or talking to your, like getting those perspectives to get any additional information, and whoever is probably going to be recommending them to see how they can support as well, because I mean, it's a great program. One last question I have for you, and that is, what does the groups program at IU look like? What happens over the summer and throughout that program? What's the benefit of the groups program?
So the number one benefit, like I said, are the three pillars that we offer: the academic support, financial support, and the social emotional support. Trying to create a sense of belonging. And when I was designing the program, that was the obstacle that I faced, because we don't have housing like Bloomington. Creating a sense of belonging, we had to get really creative with what does that look like. So for students who participate in the program, they come 6 weeks before school actually starts. We have them here 4 days a week. So it's Monday through Thursday. We have them here from 8 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I know some of the students that's listening now, like, oh my God, that's like summer school. I don't want to do that. But you are not in the classroom the entire time. They have lecture 2 days a week where they take 2 different classes. They're both interactive classes, and they meet the credit requirement for all programs. So regardless of whether you're education major, business major, nursing major, these 6 credits will go into your degree program. Okay. So while they're here and they're taking those 2 classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, on Mondays and Wednesdays, we have other opportunities for students. Like I said, we go on trips, cultural trips. We do personal development opportunities. So there's other things that they do. They get to meet other people. We feed them every day, which is, a plus right there. Come in, get some free food. And then in addition to that, they receive a lot of other things. They get exposure to things that other students don't get exposed to, by way of the resources and things that we have on campus. They get it ahead of time. So they'll know upfront, like where this department is, where their classes are. They also receive a stipend. We give them $500 for participating in the program. That money goes directly to them. It doesn't go towards their tuition. They also receive a $250 book stipend for the fall to participate in the program. They receive a laptop computer, and then a whole bunch of IU swag. They get T-shirts and hats and all type of stuff by way of swag. But the biggest thing is creating a sense of community. If nothing else, I know 24 other students on this campus before I get started. In addition to that, throughout the academic year, students also are exposed to, we have monthly check-ins where we meet collectively. We have guest speakers come in. We do other development and programming for them. And then they also receive $1,000 scholarship for the academic year. So we also are giving them money throughout the academic year, as well as the $500 stipend that we give them. And the program is 100% free. It doesn't cost them anything. The only thing we ask you to do is to show up and participate. That's it. And it's giving students a head start on their college career. It's not summer school, which some students are like, oh, this is like summer school. And then they get here and be like, nah, this is not summer school at all. This is like actually cool. But yeah, it's an opportunity for students to really get a jump start. I would say all of the students, knock on wood, because grades are coming up right now, um, they should all finish the program the 6 weeks and start their college career with a 4.0 GPA.
Nice.
So then that's them going into their freshman year, now having that sense of accomplishment. It's like, man, I got a 4.0, or I got a 3.9, or I have a 3.8 starting into my college career, which is giving them a jump start. So there's so many extra pieces that they're going to receive that they wouldn't receive if they're not in the program. And then we're growing. This is just our third cohort. We just started in 22. So this is our third cohort. We're getting ready to start recruiting now for the fourth cohort. So this is still developing as it go along, but all the reviews that I've had from the students have been very positive, and they'll tell you better than I could tell you.
That sounds awesome. For one, I mean, the additional supports, the supports over the summer, the extra funding, I mean, the scholarship, the laptop, all of those things are really great pieces of information and really great resources. So I'm really thankful for you getting innovative and looking to see how you can bring a program like this to Northwest Indiana. So thank you for that. One last question, one last thing, and that is only, what's the age? Because I know that, like, is this a right out of high school program, or is this something that maybe I took a year or two off and I want to go back to school? Is there an age cap on the groups program? Because I know going into IU Bloomington, it's like your freshman year is the only year you can apply. Is that similar to the IUN groups program?
So to get in the program, it's for incoming freshmen. So you can only do it your year coming into your freshman year. Now, who says you have to be 17 as a freshman? Who says you have to be 19 coming in as a freshman? So you can only apply going into your freshman year of college. So that's a good question. I haven't had anybody ask that, can I participate? I'm grown. I haven't had that yet, but as it's set up right now, the only time you can enroll in the program is before your freshman year of college, because we start 6 weeks before your freshman year.
Okay, that's good to know, because I'm listening to your play on words. Because I also I see a couple students who graduated a couple years ago listening, so maybe they might want to go into the school, and if, like you said, if it's their freshman year, then they may actually be able to go into that program. So thank you so much for sharing that information, and I think that's something that's going to be really good to note. So thank you, Antoine, for sharing your expert knowledge with us today. And thank you so much for our viewers joining us live. Next time, we'll walk through the actual FAFSA application process. You don't want to miss that. Remember, we will do a live session every Tuesday during the month of August at 12:30. We also have one-on-one sessions available for anyone needing direct FAFSA support. We have bilingual support on some of those days as well. All you have to do is go to our website at www.coatesinc.org and find our FAFSA page and schedule a one-on-one time with us. The page is also full of FAFSA resources and details that we are updating all the time. Share our page, share our resources, and follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Also sign up for our newsletter as well. Thank y'all, and see you next time on FAFSA Ready, Set, Go, where we spend Tuesday talking to experts on all things FAFSA and financial aid. And we will see you all soon.